Hi, I'm Tracy.
Hi, and I'm Faye. And welcome to More Better with Tracy and Faye.
More better. More better. More better. With Tracy and Faye.
Timetable. So now that you have an idea, right? Like you have an idea of like how, what is it? Employee message, leader sessions, leader kit, or whatever that is. Timetable. One thing I'm going to say about timetable or time frame or whatever you want to call that, people often mistaken that as the plan.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
And I get that, right?
They see the calendar and they're like, "Oh, that's a great
can you create a communication plan?" And I'll be like, "Okay, well, I'll start to ask, what's your objective and who's the audience?" And no. I just want the table with the dates, who's writing it, tactics. I want that. Right. And I think we'll get there. I promise we will get there. I know that's the meat of the plan because you want to know, you want to see it all laid out
on a page, kind of thing.
But I think to get there, we got to do a little bit of upfront thinking, just like, we got to get those sections around objective, audience, tactics, channels. Like we have to we'll get there. I promise. So timetable, absolutely important. Things that you can do. Yeah. So I love everyone loves a good calendar, a good timetable, because then you get to map out like, okay, now we're going to do the email here.
You
we're
just
do this.
I'm so nerdy about it. Everybody loves it. Does everybody?
Okay, maybe I love a good calendar. I know. I'm sorry.
100%.
Yeah.
So necessary.
But you get to see everything. Yeah. So, and I know that's what typically, yes, stereotyping, but and not just HR, but people want to see that.
They want that.
They want to map it out.
They don't understand necessarily that all the other stuff is what feeds that. That's
exactly
the end product.
That's really
not what you start with. Going, here's a blank calendar. I'm just going to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I guess what I want to say in this little section of timetable, time frame, whatever, is that we will get there. I promise we will get there. Super important. We all want to get there because we want to see. It's concrete, right? Like it's like, oh, now I know, like I said, now I know when the email's going and the video and all of these things. And you can also see like, oh, you can share that with your comms partner or someone who knows, like, again, like if you don't have a large organization, but you share it with someone who knows what else is going on. Yeah. And they can say, oh, you know what? We can bundle that message with this president's message that's going out. Guess what? Now,
or if I can stomp on you with the things we're practicing not doing.
All right.
Is what I call mid-air collisions.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So we have this plan and it's great because we've got this we're rolling out something and it's going to be great. And you have everything's been worked out. You got your objectives, your key messages, who your audiences are, when you want to do things and how you want to do them. And it's all great. And then because, you haven't checked with anybody else to see what else is happening in the company, you find out that the day that you're launching this project, well, guess what? There's an all company meeting off-site that everybody's going to be at on that day. So everyone can get it in their email and maybe they'll look at their phone, but nobody's paying attention to it because nobody's actually in the office that day, that it's a day for something else. And we have, both Faye and I, when we've worked on really large projects, mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, the sorts of things that make everybody go, oh, those mid-air collisions were everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, you guys who work in HR, you'll know weeks, sometimes months in advance if there's going to be layoffs. And we're all working quietly in the background toward that date. And then you find out that some area in the company was doing like a team appreciation party on that day. And then things don't get found out because maybe that leader doesn't find out about this action, about the layoffs until 3 days before. And then like, oh God, we have a team party happening that day.
Yeah.
So, nothing we could do about that. But the point being, there's going to be mid-air collisions because there is so much information flying all the time that if there's something that you're working on that needs a communication plan, because it is that robust, it requires a communication plan, you are in your best interest to find out what else is going on in the organization on that same day or within that time frame so that you can, avoid stepping in it.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm going to add one more layer to that if I can to this lasagna, right? Now I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. One of the things I was thinking about as you were talking about those mid-air collisions and looking at the organization, and it reminds me, some of the feedback we received in our survey was also about understanding what else in HR is going on.
Oh, yes.
So I think
a few people said that.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, so your COEs or centers of excellence, or, like they'll have programs and projects, right? Yeah. And I know it's easy, and I'm not, again, HR is not the only one who does this, but it's easy to sort of go, okay, here's what we need to communicate or we need to roll out. And I think it's important to also look across HR. That was some of the feedback, is that what else is going on in, I don't know, talent acquisition, or what else is going on in compensation? Because there are, because what you might find, and maybe not, but you might find that there are opportunities to bundle that information. Yeah. And I think that's more, and that will land better for whomever your audience is, right? Like if you have shared audiences, if you have your timings, is there wiggle room to move some of that timing, right? Of whatever you're announcing. I think it's just really important. I think the other thing, if I could add one more thing, is, your employees, especially your recipients, they hear from HR. They may not necessarily care that it comes from performance management or talent activation, or, they see is HR.
Yeah. And then they're like, why am I getting five
messages,
whatever, from HR, but just a different department within HR. Yeah. And I'm the employee. To me, HR is one thing. Yeah. So align and give me one email to read, or, whatever. Don't give me 10. Yeah. Because it gives the impression
that you're not coordinated,
and everybody thinks they're special and beautiful and all the rest. And I'm sure you are.
And you are.
But for the sake of your audience, simplify.
I think
so. Review and approval. So those of us in the comms world refer to who holds the pen. Yes. Who holds the pen? So I write something, and I know that I can't just say, way to go, Trace, we'll send it out, because I'm doing work on behalf of someone else in the organization always. So that person needs to take a look at what we're doing, and they need to, have a say, and they need to, have an opportunity to weigh in, et cetera. And all the way along, depending on what you're working on, maybe it has to go right up the chain to the CEO, or at the very least, the head of HR. Sure. Whatever that might be. The thing I like to put in a communication plan is, who are the people reviewing, and to what degree are they doing it?
Nice.
So is someone reviewing just to approve or disapprove? Is someone editing? Is someone reviewing it for content? Is someone reviewing it just to be factual? Mm-hmm. I just want I want you to read this because I need to make sure that I'm not saying anything that is incorrect. Law, legal, so much stuff, especially in HR, has to go through legal, right? Yes,
compliance and legal. Yeah,
so you throw it through compliance and legal, and it's great. I've worked with different types of people over the years, and some people are great. I call them great because they just come in and say, legally, this is an issue. Compliance,
we can't say that.
We can't see this. I know what you want to do, so let's figure out a way that we can say it. And it's like a negotiation over words, and it's great. It's all very positive. But then there are other people. I've worked with other lawyers in particular, where they're like, no, we can't say that, can't say that, can't say that. And they're not interested in the conversation.
Yeah, they're not interested
at all. And that's frustrating. Mm-hmm. But also it's, so much about what we do is relationship building. So let's say there is a lawyer, and we have this ongoing issue. But over time, I just need you to look and make sure that we are not saying anything that is unclear from a legal perspective, or gray area from a legal perspective.
Doesn't get us sued or put us in jail.
We don't want any of those things. No, we really, really don't. And, if this piece of communication got in the hands of someone outside the company, which anything can happen instantly these days, is it going to get us in trouble? And, you got to find the way to have that conversation, because if I just went to some lawyer who I don't know, I have no relationship with, and I'm like, hi, I need you to review and approve this. Well, they're putting on their legal mind. Yep. And they're redlining the heck out of what I wrote.
And they're busy. Like, so they're just gonna, I think that's maybe,
That's probably a big part of it. You know,
yeah, it's like, okay, fine. I'm just,
don't say this, don't say this, don't say this. That part's good. I'm like, well, that just says thank you. That's not going to help. So again, I'm kind of went a bit off topic there, but in terms of review and approval, who is doing it? What is their role in the process? Because what you don't want to have happen, which we've had happen all the time, probably all of you too, is someone sends it back and they've rewritten it.
yes.
And that's around style. That's not around substance. I don't really want someone to communicate on style unless to say I'm very casual and it's a really formal environment, or vice versa. You know, then you can have a comment about style. But to just rewrite a sentence in your way of rewriting a sentence because, say, it's someone who loves writing and they don't get to do a lot of it.
Sure.
Well,
that happens.
That's not helpful, right? It's not helpful. So being clear about why someone is reviewing it, what role they play in that does help. Wow, that was a long. I didn't take a breath.
No, but review and approve. Okay, I'm gonna add. Again, we're nerds, right? So I like this sort of stuff. I think one thing I would say about review and approval, in my experience, is that it's often the area that we don't document. It's one of those things that people go, oh yeah, Susan's going to review it. Yeah, no problem. Or, John has to review it after Susan. And sometimes, I don't know, again, nerd alert, I like to do the process map. I know that sounds horrible, or swim lanes. Like I like to go from like, who's drafting this sucker? Mm-hmm. Who's going to look at it? Like I'll shepherd the process if I have to.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like, and it goes from drafting to, let's say, first review. Let's say we call it first review and it goes to Susan in whatever. She has 2 days. I'm giving you 48 hours, right? Because guess what? If you don't put those parameters in there, that email is going out 30 days after lunch, right?
In fact, I'm going to interrupt for one quick second because you are totally right. And I've had situations where I've been giving this advice to people and they say, well, I don't want to be rude because I have to send it out. It's got to go to the CEO. It's got to go to the director of this. It's got to go to this important person. And so I don't want to put a deadline because I feel like it's imposing. And said, well, if you don't give them a deadline, they're never going to look at it. When someone is busy, give them a deadline, because if it matters to them, they'll get it in before the deadline. If it doesn't matter to them, they'll ignore your deadline. And then you can carry on and you can say, I gave you the opportunity to weigh in. That's the other thing. It's a cover your butt sort of situation.
Exactly.
Let's say I'm working on something, it's got to go through legal. So I send it to Joanna in legal. God, I hope there's no one watching here. Joanna in legal. I don't
Joanna,
know.
We love you.
I don't know Joanna in legal. It's a made up name. And I say, we are launching this on whatever date. I need to get legal review done by X date. If we don't hear anything back, we will launch without your input. So that way they know. So Joanna reads that and says, okay, well, I better make time to do this. Or maybe she gives it a glance and says,
that's on her.
I don't work. But now it's on her because I've done my part by saying, this is the deadline. This is what I need. And if it comes out and then Joanna goes, how did this go out with my approval? I said, well, we documented it.
Yeah, we did.
We documented it and it was clear as day.
And what I like also about my nerdy process map, and again, I keep saying this, but I hope this doesn't sound so complicated that you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to do comms plans. Again, it's so important. But what I like about documenting start to finish is because then everyone sees the process, so that when it goes to legal, head of HR, the pointy end of the stick, as I like to call, like who's approving this before it gets released into the wild, they can see, Tracy's seen it. Oh, Joanne's seen it from legal. Oh, Susan from compliance or whatever that is. They've seen all these steps, as opposed to because sometimes what will happen is that you go through the process, it's not mapped out. It goes to head of HR. And they're like, well, who else has seen it? How do I know? Like, are you sure this is right? And I'm like, well, look, but now we have a little bit of a map that says everybody's here's what sender, exactly, this is how important it is to draft this information. It's going to exchange all these hands. And then everybody in the process goes, oh, look, I keep saying Susan and Joanne. What about Bill?
There are no men. There are no men in HR, apparently.
Bill in
Diego.
compensation, Diego has to see this, and he's waiting on me. So if I'm the one who's like taken instead of, I was given this for 3 days, and he's got to make compensation has to see it as a compensation project. Well, I better like make sure that he gets it on time, because guess what? Every step of the process.
So if someone in the middle isn't doing their job, you haven't heard back, and you follow up, and you're like, okay, let's move it on to Diego. It's got to happen. Things have got to move.
So that's review and approval. Yeah. Okay. Measurement. Again, I think it's one of those areas. Oh man, it's one of those. Sometimes I'll see a comms plan, and I'm guilty of this, and I don't know what to say under evaluation or measurement. Ways to do it. So how do we? Firstly, what are you measuring? Right. Yeah. So are you measuring the communication effectiveness? Are you measuring how effective were the communications to this X project? You're not measuring like, was the project a success? That is something I think that, but sometimes people get mixed up with that, right? Like,
it's more like, what are your success measures? Yeah. Not the other way around. How do we call this a success?
That's what the project's going to measure. Yeah. Right. Like they're going to measure like, I don't know, whether the system is efficient. Does it save time? Does it save money? Like that's what that project is going to measure. What you're trying to measure, indicate measurement in this plan is how effective, maybe, is that right? How effective were the communications?
Was the objective met? Well, what is your objective? Is it people signing up? People signing up on time?
Doing this project or doing adopting a process, right?
Yeah. Okay. All those things that you can measure right back to your objective.
Okay.
I think that's the easiest way to go without, and as you and I discussed before, surveying people. Because, online, they
depends on the project,
great, but use it judiciously because people are really sick of surveys. So if there's a way you can measure the effectiveness of your communication plan as related to the project without having to survey people, then that's better.
Communication functions will look at clicks and views. So you can work with your communications department to do that. I mean, there's a lot of information even you can get very, very simply. Like if you're, for example, if your intranet's on a SharePoint site, a SharePoint, you can if you own that page, you can look at analytics really. Yeah. Right. So you can look at that. So I think that those are good ways to say, oh, look, we got a bump in page views, for example, after we released that email. So that's good.
And then you can extrapolate information from that.
And then you can talk to your project team and go, hey, did we see more signups? Did we see more whatever the action or whatever the things that you wanted as part of that plan? So measurement, important. I wouldn't overthink measurement too much. Like I think just see what kind of information or data you can get, but be really clear on what you're measuring. Yeah, it would be
for sure.
It's hard because we're talking about a very like vague or nebulous kind of project, right?
I mean, the more that you can measure based on, kind of data analytics that you can draw from other places, great.
Yes.
I will talk about a place where surveys have been used. I've used them in the past, is when it's a very large change project and there's maybe culture change associated with it, but like a mass overhaul. We did do and have done and will do surveys, employee surveys, to get their awareness, their understanding, and their affinity for adoption.
Yep.
So, because some of those things, sentiment, thank you.
That's okay.
And sentiment, because those are things that, if say it's a big change project, those will change over time. So measuring that kind of stuff is very important.
Yes.
But again, use that judiciously because it really needs to be an important over a long period of time kind of thing to make it really valuable to go directly to people and say, tell me what you think, tell me what you know, tell me if you're going to do it.
And don't leave it blank. Don't leave it blank. I mean, the one thing I would also say about measurement is that, like, I definitely put a measurement component in your plan, because guess what? You're going to have to likely report on that to after when the project is
Can
over.
I have a measurement saying, if I don't get any nasty emails, I consider it a success? If last year I always got nasty emails.
Oh, okay. Then you have that's actually a good measure.
There you go.
All right.
People hate me less than they did last year.
Oh, fantastic. Yes. You're not as horrible.
I'm not as
last
horrible.
year.
Can I have a bonus?
Okay.
Let's do the recap of what are those, because who remembers anymore? The 7 elements of a communication.
I know. Thank you so much. We took the scenic route here. We love this sort of stuff. I'm glad, like I said, it doesn't surprise me that HR says they want more of this. We're happy, really, we are, to provide this for HR because they touch every part of the organization. They connect with every employee, whether you're getting paid or taking a day off or going on leave, like so important. Okay. 7 elements of a communication plan: objective, audience, key messages, channels, timetable, review and approval, our favorite, and measurement. Those are the 7 elements of a communication plan. At some point, we'll sketch that out for you because I think we can offer a download. Or if you do want to have that, please email us or connect with us. We're happy to share like a template, that we can share.
And, all right, I'm going to say this.
Okay, go for it.
Go for it. If you want further support, if what Faye and I talk about in the communication plan episode, what we're doing here, writing, editing, any of the stuff that we talk about presenting, if you think there'd be value for you or your organization to do a bit of a deeper dive with the two of us, we are happy to do that. We've already had opportunities to do that, and it's a blast to be able to take what we're delivering publicly and dive in a little bit deeper with people in different organizations. So
wow, look, we did it. Okay, you can nerd out.
We are not salespeople. Can you tell him? No, I have to ask.
I know, exactly. Anyway,
it's all true.
Well, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we loved making it. And join us next time for more. Join us next time. I can't even talk because we're like so excited. Join us next time. 3rd time's a try. Next time on More Better with Tracy and Faye. Bye. Bye.